The two bikers were sitting at a table in front of the cafe. They laughed loudly and exchanged stories from their travels. Their booming voices made it hard for anyone else to enjoy their coffee. Gosh, the cafe owner asked them several times to keep it down, but they ignored her. When she threatened to call the police, one of them said, "They won't do anything. We'll just tell them we're veterans and they have to let us stay here." After that, the woman got furious and decided to call the cops herself. "You'll regret this," one of the bikers said, smirking. But when the police arrived and heard the cafe owner's story, they didn't do anything to the bikers. Instead, they arrested them. Why did the police take the side of the cafe owner? What did the bikers have to say for themselves? And who is the cafe owner? In today's video, we'll find out. Welcome to my channel. Small cafe in the mountains was famous throughout the city. It was surrounded by thick trees and had a wide open veranda where people could sit and drink coffee. Many tourists who went on excursions in the forest came to this cafe. But recently, two bikers had ruined the cafe owner's good reputation. It all started like any other day. Tourists were coming to the cafe, ordering coffee and smiling at each other. But then suddenly, two large men on a motorcycle drove up to the cafe. The strangers parked their bike and approached the counter. "One black coffee, strong," one of them said gruffly. "And make it two," added the second biker. The owner of the cafe poured the coffee and put it on the counter. Both men took their cups without even saying thank you and went outside to sit at a table on the veranda. When they sat down, the men began loudly discussing some topic that only they understood. Every time someone else tried to speak, they cut them off with a wave of their hand. "Come on, man. Tell me about that girl again." "How did you get her number?" one of them asked. Yeah, I want to know too," the second biker said. "Oh, no problem. You guys can have her number too," the first man replied. "I already gave it to 20 guys here. That girl will be pleased." The two bikers burst out laughing loudly. It was at that moment that the cafe owner realized that the men were being inappropriate. She had never liked loud and intrusive people, so she decided to ask the bikers to keep it down. Taking a deep breath, the cafe owner walked over to the table and said politely, "Excuse me, but you need to quiet down a bit. There are people here who would like to relax." "Oh, go away," one of the men snapped. "We'll talk as loud as we want here. You have a problem with that?" "Listen, I don't want to have problems. Just keep it down a little," the woman insisted. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have nothing to say to you. If you don't like it, leave," the second biker said. The woman wanted to say something back, but she knew it wouldn't lead to a good conversation. So she just shook her head and went back behind the counter. For a while, everything was fine, and the bikers kept quiet. However, after a few minutes, the noisy men started talking again. "Are you sure she won't come back? I think she's going to cause us some trouble," one of them said. "Let her come. Let's see what she say," the other man replied with a sneer. The cafe owner couldn't stand it anymore and once again went outside to talk to the bikers. "I told you to keep it down," she said angrily this time. The men looked at her and burst out laughing. "Why should we listen to a little old lady like you? We're veterans. This is our land. You'd better leave us alone," the first man said. "That's right. Don't you understand we're veterans?" the second biker added. "I don't care if you're veterans or not. If you don't stop making noise here, I'll call the police," the woman replied. "Oh yeah, let them come. I'm waiting," one of the men said with a smirk. "I bet they'll be on our side anyway," the second biker added, winking at his friend. The cafe owner couldn't believe how rude these men were. Even though she was a kind person, she couldn't just put up with this. So she took out her phone and called the cops. "Hello, I'd like to report some people." "Yes, they're being very rude and won't stop making noise." "All right, send someone quickly." "Okay, thank you," the woman said into the phone and hung up. When the bikers heard that the police had been called, they started talking quietly among themselves. They all looked nervous. The cafe owner thought that they were scared and was about to gloat over her victory. However, their conversation quickly turned into laughter. The men were probably trying to ease their tension. Soon enough, the sound of a police siren echoed through the mountains. The bikers immediately stood up, grabbed their things, and went outside. The cafe owner watched them leave, thinking that they had finally learned their lesson. However, just as she was about to turn around, 3 policemen entered the cafe. The leader was a major. "Hello," he greeted the woman. "I received your call. What seems to be the problem?" "These men here were making a lot of noise. I asked them to quiet down several times, but they didn't listen to me," the woman explained. The major nodded his head and went outside to look for the bikers. When the police saw the bikers, they immediately ordered them to stand up against the wall and then asked for their documents. The bikers didn't resist and willingly gave the officers their documents. The major looked through them and handed them back to the men. "Get in the car," he ordered. The bikers were confused, but still got in the police car without arguing. The major turned to the cafe owner and said, "Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but these men are veterans, and we have to let them go." "I apologize for the inconvenience. Have a nice day," the major said, and left with the bikers. The cafe owner couldn't believe what she had just heard. She knew that veterans deserved respect, but these men had been extremely rude and aggressive. Still, since the police had made it clear that there was nothing she could do about it, the woman just nodded her head. As soon as the major and the bikers were gone, the cafe owner went to her computer and checked the surveillance cameras. To her surprise, she saw that the bikers were actually army generals. She couldn't believe it. She had offended real heroes. Thinking about this, the woman took out her phone and dialed a number. On the other end of the line was a general. It was the same one who had come to her cafe with a couple of bikers. "Hello, General. I'm so sorry for what happened today. I didn't know you were veterans. Please forgive me," the woman said. "It's okay, ma'am. We understand. Sometimes you don't know who you're dealing with. We were just joking around, but it looks like we went too far. I'm sorry," the general replied. "Oh, I'm sorry. Once again, I'm really sorry. Please forgive me," the woman said. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Have a nice day," the general said and hung up the phone. The cafe owner sighed with relief. She was glad that she had apologized to the generals. The next day, the cafe owner was surprised to see that the generals had returned to her cafe. They were eating coffee and smiling at each other. One of the generals noticed the woman looking at them and raised his hand in greeting. The woman smiled back. She was glad that everything had worked out well in the end. The generals became regular customers of the cafe. They often shared their stories from their travels with the owner, which made her laugh. She also learned a lot from them. From time to time, the woman missed the old days when everything was quiet in the cafe, but she was happy to have such interesting customers. She realized that sometimes you can't judge a person by their appearance, and sometimes even bikers can be nice people.